Hey everyone, welcome back. My name is dustinkreis, and today we're going to do a game discussion, and we're going to talk about this game right here, Tales of Xillia for the PS3. I just finished this game, kind of in two big marathon runs here on this Labor Day weekend. I had the entire weekend off, played a bunch of it on Saturday, and then played a bunch of it again today just to finish it out. Finally clocked in around just under 40 hours. And I know a lot of people have been clocking in a lot lower than that, but it seems like a lot of them are not doing the side quests, and that's kind of unfortunate because the side quests add a lot to the story, especially the character-specific ones. So I definitely made sure I did as many of those as I could, but by the time I got to the end, I was like, alright, let's get this done so I can go on to something else. But yeah, this is a fantastic Tales game, a really awesome Tales game. In terms of its mechanics, I would say this is the best Tales game yet. And in terms of its storyline, I'd put it probably underneath Vesperia and Abyss. But still, it is a fantastic, great story. Really, really lovable, enjoyable characters. There really wasn't an annoying character in this game, except for Ivar, who's not really a party member. And then Tipo can sometimes get on your nerves as well. But probably one of the most enjoyable casts that I've seen. And really, really enjoyed the character of Mia Maxwell. Really surprised at how much I enjoyed that character and sort of her growth over the game from it's sort of an RPG trope, this sort of cold, very powerful, quote-unquote god that slowly learns how to deal with their humanity over the course of the game. And by the end of it, she is a really fleshed out and wonderful individual in the game. But the storyline is it's pretty straightforward. Of course, it is a Tales game, so it's filled with sort of technobabble. And most of the time in the early parts of the game, you're sitting there wondering, what the hell are these people talking about? But yeah, essentially humanity has built this machine called the Lance of Kresnik, which absorbs mana to power it, and this starts throwing things out of balance. So the god Maxwell assumes human form and comes down to put an end to this, and in the process of that, ends up basically losing all of her powers, and then forced to join forces with a ragtag group of humans to try to stop this empire's ambitions with this machine. And it goes in a lot of places, and it does kind of the standard Tales thing, which I don't want to say, if you've played the game, you beat it. It always seems like there's two worlds fighting against each other. But one of the cool things about this game is it takes place on a very small portion of the world that Xillia inhabits. It's basically just a story between two kingdoms. And instead of doing this big globe-trotting thing, you're just basically going back and forth across this bay. And I really liked that. I really thought that was really awesome. And it's going to be cool to see how it incorporates into Tales of Xillia 2, which is a separate... It's a sequel, but it's also a separate story with new characters, from what I've read. So it's going to be really interesting to see, if it takes place in a different part of the world, if it's still in this area of Fenmont and Aljul and all these other places. But I really enjoyed the storyline. I really enjoyed the characters. Really, really good. I don't want to say too much about it, but, certain characters like Alvin has a history, a mysterious past, and you sort of unravel that over the course of the game. The only thing I would say I didn't like about the character, it's one of those things which this game makes it much more manageable because there's only 6 party members instead of like 8 or, in the case of Final Fantasy VI, like 16. But I found myself sort of clinging to certain characters more than others. I can't remember. Rowan. I barely used Rowan. I found him to not be that great in battle. I found Alvin to be a much more decent person. Usually I just use Mia, Jude, Alvin, and what was her name, Elise? Yeah, Elise. And then as it got into the later portions of the game where the bosses were starting to deal out much more damage, I substituted Elise for, oh, I'm blanking on her name now, the girl with the staff who's a nurse, because I wanted 2 healers and 2 people that can cast Resurrection. And yeah, I just barely never used Rowan at all. And the one kind of weird thing about this game is the characters are constantly chattering, which is really awesome, I think. It really draws you in to the party members. And of course we know Tales always has these skits, which the skits sometimes are better than the actual storyline that's going on because they're quite humorous. But on top of that, you'll just be running around the world map and all of a sudden the character portrait will come up on the bottom of the screen and they'll just start talking to each other just about what's going on around the world map. And I think that's fantastic. And I just completely lost my train of thought where I was going with that. But anyway, where was I going with that? Oh well, I guess we'll just get over that real quick. But anyway, yeah, I find the storyline to be very awesome, and one of the better Tales stories, and one of the simpler Tales stories, especially when you compare it up against Vesperia, which a lot of times in Vesperia, I was like, I have no fucking clue what's going on, but this game is awesome. Grace's told a much simpler story as well, and that's kind of the thing with these newer Tales games. Vesperia, I think I put like 60 hours into that game just doing the main storyline. And then Grace's came out and it was very short. Xillia came out and it's as short as you want it to be. Like, I think Ultimate Floyd said that he beat the game in like 25 hours. And it took me 40 because I did a lot of the side questing stuff. But yeah, a very wonderful story. In terms of gameplay mechanics, this is tried and true Tales. The new thing in this system is linking, which is pretty awesome. Using the control pad down below when you're fighting, your characters, like the health, HP and stuff, the status bars, are in a cross. So by pressing, usually Mia's at the top, or Jude, whoever you choose to pick as to be your main character. And then the rest of the characters fill in. And if you press down, you select the character down here. If you press over, you select the character over here and over there. And when they link, the 2 characters will attack the same enemy. That character will focus on, in the case of Jude, who was usually who I kept, whenever Mia got knocked down, and I seem to get knocked down a lot in Tales because I always forget to block. I always forget that block. He'll run over and pick you up, and when he picks you up, he also heals you at the same time. Really useful maneuver. And then as you're starting to use your spirit arts, and then you'll get linked arts, which in the case of Mia and Jude, there's a spell that Mia knows called Fireball, and you use that, and if I'm not sure what the actual I think that's the sidebar along the side as you fill it up. When you get to a certain point, you're able to use these. If you use that, then a symbol will appear over Mia, and if you quickly press the R2 button, Mia and Jude will do a link art that will cause massive damage. And then, of course, this leads to the Mystic Arts, which I was able to pull off twice without really knowing how to do that. And the unfortunate thing is this doesn't have a instruction manual, and I couldn't remember how to do Mystic Arts, and, I wasn't really needing to use them, so I never really looked it up to remember how to use Mystic Arts in this game. But that's why we need instruction manuals, because I have the case sitting right there next to me, and I could just easily paused it, opened up the manual, and looked. But that's not how the game companies want to do this nowadays. But yeah, tried and true battle system of Tales, this sort of action-esque battle system where you also have to press the triangle button to pause to go into your menu and use items and things like that. If you've played a Tales game, you're going to know what to do in this game. The one really awesome thing that I love the most, and I hope they keep it for future Tales games, is how you upgrade shops. And essentially what you do is you just run around the map and you find these areas that are sparkly, or you'll find like a little bag on the ground, and you find these materials, and then you trade these materials into the shop to upgrade them. And this is great because you never have to backtrack to a store, ever. All the stores carry the same stock. It's just whatever you've upgraded the stores to. So, a lot of times in these RPGs, you're moving towards another town. You start getting, money build up, and you're like, oh, I need to buy better weapons. Well, instead of going back to town and buying those better weapons, just push on to the next town and keep finding more items and building that up. And as you build the shop up, not only do you unlock new items, but you also lower the price of the existing items. So if you're looking for an older piece of, you haven't bought like an armor in a long time, the nose won't stop itching, then the more you build it up with these items, the more, oh my god, it will not stop itching. As you build these shops up, the items will lower in price, so you get them easier. Now, sometimes you don't want to blow all your items at the same time. You want to kind of wait until bonuses start to take effect, because normally when you use an item, it gets a ×2 counter. So if a certain item gives you like 15 experience towards the weapon shop, it'll give you actually 30. Sometimes, however, the stores will offer specials where it actually gives you ×3. That's when you want to unload things onto these shops to get that massive bonus and get the new weapons. The only downside to this game is I often felt like my money was never keeping pace with the items in the store. Like, I'd buy swords, and then like I couldn't afford any new armor, so I just move on to the next town. Then I'd buy armor, and so on and so forth. So it was like every other town I was buying weapons and armor. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the gameplay. Other than that, it's pretty much tried and true Tales of game. The one great thing about it is the fast travel also. Basically, you just press the R3 button and fast travel anywhere you want. Except for like when the storyline dictates you have to walk somewhere. Of course, you have to visit a place before you can fast travel there, but once you get it, you can fast travel anywhere you want, and that really helps out with the side questing and making the side questing much more manageable than having to run through those huge environments to get where you need to go. Graphically, I read somewhere, it was the IGN article when they did a review of it, where they talked about the graphics being sort of subpar. And I don't know what IGN wanted Namco Bandai to do, because this is a 2011 game. But, I'm really kind of getting sick of JRPGs getting beat up because they have sort of cartoony, colorful graphics instead of like the hard-boiled, like Call of Duty, everything's mud brown graphics. This is a gorgeous game, and yeah, maybe they could have animated the character models a little bit better, but hands down, one of the most colorful games this generation. And to sit there and say that it's a 2011 game released in 2013, but two, with all these beautiful vistas you go to say that the graphics are kind of subpar, I think is a little bit disingenuous, and I think it's a little bit elitist. I don't know what they wanted Namco Bandai to do, to go back and like redo the graphics, but yeah, this is a gorgeous game, and one of the better looking, of course, JRPGs released this year. Most of the JRPGs, of course, have been on the portable systems, but yeah, I don't understand where they're coming across saying that the graphics are subpar, but whatever. Musically, this one is kind of a surprise, because you get the soundtrack of a normal Tales game, and for me, a lot of times, I feel like all the Tales soundtracks sound the same. This one was kind of a surprise, because in certain areas, you get these very sort of saxophones, blues, jazz soundtrack, and very, in a lot of ways, kind of very reminiscent of like Deadly Premonitions music, or like the music of Twin Peaks and things like that. And I really dug those songs, and I have to go look and see if it's on the CD soundtrack that I have now, because for a Tales game, which I usually feel like the music is always the same, that was just amazing to have that kind of cool music in there. But yeah, all in all, Tales of Xillia, it's definitely worth the price of admission. I'm very happy that I picked up the collector's edition with the Mia Maxwell statue, because Mia is actually one of my favorite Tales characters now. I don't know if she'll overtake Tyr, but I always sort of fall for the girls in a Tales game. I don't know why. They're really usually well done characters, and of course, it doesn't help that she wears next to nothing, and her spirit realm outfit is even more revealing. But she is a fantastic character, and this is actually a fantastic game and a fantastic addition to the series. And I'm sitting here right now, I can't wait for Xillia 2. I don't know, it'll probably come out hopefully sometime in 2014, hopefully not 2015, but really, really looking forward to finally sitting down and, finishing the story, as it were. Even though this does sort of finish the story that this tells, it's going to be kind of interesting to see how they do Xillia 2 and what they're actually going to get across with that. But yeah, definitely definitely a worthy purchase. If you love JRPGs, you have to get this game. It is fantastic. So that's really all I wanted to talk about Xillia. Still didn't remember what I was trying to talk about with the little skits down there below. It does add a lot to the characterizations of the game, and it really makes you feel like you get to know the characters a lot better with the constant chattering, but I can't remember where I was going with that. Oh well. I'll probably watch it back and be like, oh, you don't? That's where you were going with it. But anyway, that is it for this. I think I'm going to take a little break and maybe watch some MST3K. And then I think the next game will probably be Killer is Dead. Even though I hear it's not the best game out there, I still want to play it because it's got a beautiful art style. But I think that's the next game I'm going to tackle. So anyway, that is it for this. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Take care. I'll see you next time.